Good day. It's Brian. It is the Art of Startup War. You are back. You are back to see another phenomenal entrepreneur. Actually, it's not even another. It's a unique, phenomenal entrepreneur who we have had the pleasure of investing into with an incredible company that is breaking through in a ridiculous way. And if we are in a world where scalability and profitability are coupled in the most important way in the entire world, and venture capitalists have finally come back to a world of sense where they start investing in great companies that can scale with EBITDA, with profitability, then all of you investors are going to absolutely love what Ashley's doing in Profit Matters. So we're going to talk about a great company which is scaling, which is already doing hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in revenue. We're going to talk about a phenomenal market opportunity for a market size, which is off the charts. We're going to talk about a founder who is like, this is like Sunday lunch for her because she just does companies and exits them like they're fun. So this is going to be great for everybody listening, okay? So Ashley, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Brian. I'm excited to be here today.
It's my exit show because you're going to exit. You're going to do so great. I remember the first time I met you, I'm like, oh my God, this is money in the bank right here.
I love it.
It's the truth. When you say things that are true, that kind of funny, but then you're like, actually, no, that's really what I thought. I thought I have got a multi-exited entrepreneur. She knows what she's doing. She's one of the greatest logistical minds when it comes to running a company. You know how to build great companies. And I said to you at the time, I'm like, I think you could do this on your own. And you're like, I know I can do this on my own. I just want to do 10 times bigger. And I love that attitude because that's what this is about. It is just as much work to build a $50 million or $100 million company as it is to build a $1 billion company. There's literally no difference. It is just about aligning the finances required to build out the product that is necessary. You already have the $50, $100 million company in the bank. This conversation we're going to have today is just about how do we build it up to be $1 billion company. And I want to say, look, to all investors, before I bring Ashley in, these talks I do is merely to share my diligence with you on companies we've already invested in. It's not to say to you, you should invest here, but it is to say to you, if I had the opportunity to invest in Ashley every single day, I would invest in her every single day. It was like a no-brainer decision. And I'm going to show you the diligence that we went through and why, when you're looking through your diligence yourself, these are the areas that you should dig into. Layer on top of them, but I give you all of my thoughts as a gift to everybody today. So, Ashley, can you tell everybody, why am I so excited by Profit Matters and by what you've achieved and what you're going to achieve going forward?
So excited about Profit Matters because we are definitely going to be a unicorn, Brian.
True.
Profit Matters. No, Profit Matters. We have built a really cool platform, and I think we're going to truly change the way that people look at accounting firms. We've already reached 200,000 in top line and monthly reoccurring revenue. So that's been really cool. But I think the unique thing about us is we had the opportunity to build a service-based company before we introduced the product. And it allowed us to really talk with clients and talk with employees. And we're building something that's truly needed. We're solving a problem out there. And so I think that's what makes us different. There's a lot of companies out there that are trying to build something fintech related, but what we're building is far different and I think superior to what other people are doing. And I heard an investor who I think is awesome this week tell me, I really love the product and here's why. Because I look at products similar to yours across the market all the time. Every day people are pitching to me. But what I've seen you do is take a little piece of a bunch of them and kind of put them together, which makes me think that you know what the market really wants. And I feel like that's what we've done here.
I love you because you know how to make money and you know how to make a lot of money. And so even we're in like minute 4 of the podcast, and you already mentioned $200,000 a month. Like you went straight to the money shot. Everything else is important. The features are important. The benefits are important. The world impact is important. Like all of those things are really important. But the really important thing is actually very few entrepreneurs are able to build out a company that has the ability to get to $200,000 a month while in testing, right? Forget about product, like while in testing. I also love your comment about listening to customers. We had a great training earlier on last week from one of our psychologist trainers, Mark Goldberth. And Mark talked about how, as a hostage negotiator for the FBI and as a suicide specialist prevention officer, he has worked in communication for his entire lives. And the very biggest and most important thing that anybody can ever learn is to listen for and not to speak to. And I believe this is exactly the same problem that folks have with product fit. They build the technology, they throw it out there, they speak to, and then they're like, buy. And then folks don't. And then
Mhm.
they go like, cool. And then they come back and then they like speak to again with another product and again and again and again. And what you've done is you've gone to all these customers and you've said, look, our skill set is in being able to understand accounts on all levels. So we're going to listen for what our customers say so we can build out the technology that they need, not force them to take the technology that we believe that they're going to want. It's very brilliant. It's the Wizard of Oz. You're making sure that everybody coming through, that those needs, those pains that they're feeling, that enemy that they have out there is being listened for so you can build something that has the ability to overcome it. And I think that in itself is phenomenal. Even if you kept listening for the next 3 years, you would still build your revenue up to five, six, seven, eight, $900,000 a month, whilst continually building in efficiencies to make that better. That's what I love about what you're doing. Talk to us about the genesis of how this all came apart. And I know you've been in this business, you've dominated before, you've done really well. But what was it this, and maybe bring us through a little bit of that, because I think the context is important. But tell us about what was important this time that made you want to build something particularly special?
Absolutely. So I actually sat in a CFO role of a company that I earned equity in. And I did a lot of analysis work in that company, Brian. So when we exited, I asked the CEO, I said, hey, what do you think made us really successful? And he said, I know what it was. And it was all the work that you did looking at the financial statements all the time. And I'm telling you, I was out on the manufacturing floor with a stopwatch, seeing how long does it take to walk from here to there? And then what do we need to adjust whenever we're pricing these things out? And so just being really involved in the finance side. But I was constantly taking data, put it in a spreadsheet, doing a lot of manual work and trying to see like, where does that take us? And what do we need to go so that I could tell him like, okay, here's a dashboard and here's KPIs. And I'm not joking when I tell you the KPI dashboard, I put numbers manually into a spreadsheet and it kicked it out. And he would look at that spreadsheet every single week and go, okay, these are the things we're going to do to change the business. So fast forward down the road, had gone through some other companies and went, man, I'm really missing this KPI piece. And I really wanted to have a CPA firm. So that was the whole reason I had initially gotten the equity. I had said, hey, I passed my CPA exam. I'm going to go have my own business. So it's like perfect opportunity to kind of pivot and do that. And I've tested other softwares out there. Like I met the founders of other companies that are currently using AI and bots and different things in the accounting space. And we even hired one of them to work for our firm at the beginning. And I went, man, what they're doing is so cool. And they're doing it for accounting firms, not just people. So let's use it in the business. Let's see what happens. But we were doing a lot of construction accounting, or we were doing manufacturing, but we were doing things that were tied to a customer or a project or a location. And so while we can automate to reduce errors and to speed things up, and we're doing a lot of that on our platform right now, you can categorize transactions, but you need people to figure out some of the other things like, okay, we have a project or different, and to work on higher level strategy. So I thought, well, what if we had KPIs and we had financials at a glance. We're moving toward a space where clients want their accountant to be there. Boom. I want you to do it for me. Don't ask me any questions. And I want instant gratification. So I'm in a space right now where Brian says, hey, I want my financial statements. And when you want them, like, you need them now. And maybe you need them because you're trying to go get a loan today, or you have an investor meeting, or whatever it is, but you don't have 24 hours to wait. So what we're trying to do is solve that problem of, I don't have my staff spending hours of time gathering data and looking at spreadsheets. I want my staff to look at the data that's already there, that's presented to them, and then go help Brian make a really good decision with it. But I need to be able to do that on the fly. So I'm trying to do instant gratification. I'm trying to solve that problem. I'm trying to incorporate some voice where you can ask questions that you would normally ask our staff, that frustrates you getting a hold of them, or frustrates us because you need us so much. And so what we did was exactly what you said a minute ago. I went through the pain of the manual, and I need it now, and I can't get it until tomorrow. And then kind of pivot on that and say, hey, we can do something to really solve this problem. And then once you build up a business with 200 clients and 30 employees, it's easy to hear the pain every day when you're truly in the business. And so it's not that we built a product and then it's like, okay, we're going to go out and sell it to customers. We built a business, and then we built a product that those customers really needed to use. So that's what I'm really excited about.
That's exciting. And then, so for folks who are listening, they're going to be thinking, well, are there products out there already? Like, some folks might use QuickBooks, some folks might use other online tools they have. So when you were looking at solving this problem, how were you integrating the other tools that were already out there that folks might be using? And how were you separating out what you're building from what those tools may offer?
Great question. I think it completely behooves us to try to go and compete against Intuit. I think they've built a great product, and I think that most small businesses are using something like QuickBooks Online, or they're using NetSuite, Dynamics, Sage, Xero, something of that nature. I wanted to build a product that didn't replace your accounting software. I wanted to build something that gives you a place to do business. So if you use QuickBooks Online, that's great, but you don't have a place to communicate with your team. You don't have a place to have messages, files, book a meeting, to categorize transactions, unless you're going into the software and you're doing that. And so I wanted a place where you could come and you could do everything you need to do with your accountant in one place. And all the things that you were going to ask them, like, tell me what's my working capital, or how long is it taking me to collect on my AR or to pay my AP, all of those things would be displayed right there for you.
It's very powerful, because the thing about accounting, which, and you and I have talked about this before, you have such different levels of knowledge. You have and a lot of firms don't have an accountant, right? They might have a part-time bookkeeper or somebody who does things, and that person may be in a different place. And maybe they have somebody who comes in and helps out, and maybe somebody who's in the organization, if it's a smaller organization, maybe they know a little bit about accounting. But sure as heck, there'll be one person there who has no clue what's going on. They just know that how to do business, right? And so this area to simplify everything, that pulls in all of the different resources that are needed, is about one thing. It is about helping them win their war against time, because there's nothing they can't find out. The problem is, it's inefficient and it's slow and it's tiring. So to be able
Yeah.
to provide this is great. So talk to me about the evolution of, as you started to build it, what the customers were saying, what pieces they started using, what features you found were like more important, and how that's shaping what this will look like in the future.
Yeah, so I think the number one problem in all accounting firms, if you ask around, would be that we spend a lot of time gathering data from clients, and then doing that really frustrates them. And so that was the number one thing to solve, is how do we quit asking you over and over again, what's this for? What's this for? And that we could automate some of that. And so by being able to have a transactions tab in the software, that's eliminating some of the need for me to solely on you to answer all of my questions. But then also having just a place to share files all in one place, as simple as that is, with very little automation, instead of me going to your Dropbox or your Drive or you saying, hey, where's my financials from last month? It gave us a place to drop things, and it gave you a place to always go and get it. And so that was huge for us. Another thing is you want to know what time we're working on. And so have we actually spent the 15 hours you thought we were going to spend a month, or has it been 8? And so we built in a time feature where you can actually see who's working on your accounting, when they're working on it, and kind of how. And then for us to be able to really make the processes internally like a robot. And so, I believe that this technology is really powered by humans. And so we still need the human element. We can display a graph that says you have $1 million in working capital. But if you don't know what working capital means, you don't know if it's good or bad. And you don't know if you can go out and you can take more work, or if you can invest in another company. You don't know what you need in your runway. And so by displaying the graph, that's great. But what I think that we've done different is then have the human meet with you once a month and say, hey, do you know what all of these things mean? What do you want to do with your business? What's the goal? Let me help you get there, and let me tell you what all of these things mean and if they're good or bad. And so doing some of that has been huge. And I think that it's the dashboard that people really want to see. And that's live connected to the accounting software. And we've used formulas to say, grab this number and this number off the balance sheet and then display this graph for Brian. And then even a little question mark where you can click on it and see, okay, I know what that means without asking somebody.
Incredible. And you've had, so first of all, you started the firm when?
In 2018, and then did not get our first client until 2019. And here's how this started. This started with me selling a deal, right? Here I am walking around with my headset, 2019. Yeah, close something. I was stoked. I mean, if you could have seen me, it was like, yeah, I did it. Okay. Closed the deal, had an outsourced team in India. At the time, I had a partner. So I was the front, like I was the face. I wrote the process. I set up the project management. This is how we're going to do it. We're going to use Bill.com. We're going to use QuickBooks. And this is what the whole process is going to look like. And then here we go. And we have 5 clients, and then 10 clients, and then 20 clients. And it's literally me and an outsourced team in India doing all the work. And so I'm the front end for the client. But then started to hire, and then went, I'm not in a position where I want to outsource right now. And my partner and I decided to go different ways. So I acquired Profit Matters wholly in 2020, and then hired people all around me. So hired CPAs, senior accountants, bookkeepers. And it's been really cool to watch that team take the things that I learned, coming in, having had a business, and then working at the lowest level, saying, okay, this is what a bookkeeper needs to do here, and this is how we're going to do it. But then going, man, it's so manual. I've got to have a software to replace some of the human work.
Amazing. And now you've brought the revenue in 3 very short years to $200,000 a month. And that revenue growth is massive. Even if this was a pure software company at the beginning, the revenue growth would still be massive. And have you adopted all of the companies onto the software?
Yes, all of the companies are using the software. So all clients, all employees, we use it every single day as is. We're built on the AWS platform, custom code. And so it's just been really cool to see the evolution and then to make a roadmap where we want to go. But I'll tell you what, Brian, I'm 100% sure after talking to a couple of people and then really getting to go through the Expert Dojo program. And I'm not saying that because I'm on the podcast. I mean that. And I'll just shout out for a second. I've been through some different accelerator programs, but what we learned here, it just changed the way that I think about my business and where I want to go.
Oh,
so that helped me kind of map out, what the next step was. That's been really cool.
Thank you.
Super cool.
Well, we haven't even started yet. We have only just begun. We're going to hit it so hard now because now it's all about growth. So you've done, it's amazing what you've built out. How big is your team now?
We have 26 full-time employees, and like I said, we did about 200,000 last month, and I'm sure that we can get to 300,000, if not push it to 350, 400, and I have a plan for that I've just kind of solidified this week, and I know how to get there, and we're going to do it.
Amazing. There's no doubt. I'm not even going to ask a question about it because it's so obvious to me. But do you then get the software being used by outside firms as well, or would it be direct to consumer, direct to business? I mean,
You know, it's an interesting question, and I go back and forth in my head, Brian, where if this works really well in Profit Matters and it really drives our margins because we have proven a concept of the type of team you need to support this kind of product, that other firms could buy this exact same software from us, and then we would kind of pivot and become truly a software company where we're selling a software, a SaaS product as a license to other firms, because you could manage your proposals, you could manage your team's time. And so it's interesting that you asked me that, because I had a mentor who said, I think it's cool that you're building a business like Pilot or like Bench or something like BotKeeper, right? Really cool companies out there. And I've kind of watched them in the background to see what they're doing. And I've heard you mention this before. You go, that's who I want to be like. And then you just try to copy everything they're doing and get there as fast as you can. But I watched them, and then, I think, well, we're going to be different. We built a really cool service business, but I go back and forth with my head. I think there's a lot of opportunity to push it out to other firms.
I just wonder if you have to choose yet. I mean, because I do love. Look, there is this craziness within VC, which things have to be pure tech. But but you know what? If I could go back in time and I could have put some money in Walmart, I would have been okay with that. Like that would have been a good investment to throw some money into an old warehouse, on the first day when they launched the first warehouse. I would have done just fine. And that goes across the board for Nike and a bunch of other amazing brands that have gone through. Or hey, if I'd thrown some money into KPMG, I would have taken that deal, no problem at all. So I think many of the arguments are flawed behind whether it should be a technology enabled service business or whether it should be a technology business. And sometimes
Mhm.
companies make decisions because they believe what they hear from venture capitalists when venture capitalists are not even sure what they're saying about this. At the end of the day, the only thing that matters is a company being able to get to $5 to $10 million a month in revenue. Really, nothing else matters. And actually, really the only thing that matters is getting to $1 million a month in revenue, because once you get to $1 million a month in revenue, you can acquire, hack, add products, add services for the other $3 4 million. Like $1 million a month is the safety zone. That's when you know you've won the game, and if you lose it, it's because you lost it, not because you couldn't have won the game, right? So you're so close. For me, it's that quickest race to get you to that $1 million a month. So you can sit back and say, I have $1 million. I'm in really good shape. Now I need to look and say, how do I go from 10, $12 million a year to 30, $50 million a year? Like, what does that next phase look like? And so it doesn't have to be throw the baby out with the bathwater and actually not have customers, because you could run an incredible service. Imagine if you could run an accounting service at 60% of the cost of the greatest accounting services in the United States, but at 200% of the value. Imagine that. Is that a $10 million a month business? Uh-huh, it is, right? Now, does that mean that you can't test having other accounting firms using the software for people that you trust? Not really. You can do that because you want to test and see where the efficiencies come in and out. And remember, you're the one in control of turning the tap on or turning the tap off. And so the more data that you get, the more testing that you do, the more knowledge that you have, the better shape that you're in. But if I'm in your shoes, I'm thinking to myself, well, if the venture capitalists were so smart, why would they have lost so much money over the last 5 years when it's all culminated to where it is today? And if tech companies were all that, well, then why would they be having their value reduced by 95% from where they're going to? So I don't think you necessarily have to make the choice today. I think the only thing that matters right now to all investors is how quickly you can get to $1 million a month in revenue. That's the very biggest thing. And if everybody sees that you're going there and you show a path to you being able to produce probably one of the most efficient and profitable accounting firms because it lives on top of a software which allows everybody to be more knowledgeable, more efficient, and more profitable, then you win.
Hey, Brian, can I tell you a story right quick? I
Hit me.
actually developed a software only, just a SaaS company, right? And we did something very similar to what we're doing at Profit Matters. And it was the same partner I had before. We didn't agree on the vision, so we went different ways. But I'll tell you what happened was when we went to raise capital for that business, I met a really smart guy along the way. And we were sitting one day like in another city. I'd flown in for like this show. I had went maybe to the Global Entrepreneur Summit, something like that. And he said, "Have you ever thought about a company like PayPal who started out just as a software company and then they realized that they couldn't function without people?" And he said, "Whenever I think about the accounting space and I think about you giving people numbers," and at the time it was just like this gorgeous, really cool dashboard, like the CFO bot kind of thing, like tell me about my cash flow and tell me about, my profitability. And he said the problem is it's not very sticky because if you don't know how to use it, like I mentioned before, well, then you don't actually know what it means. It could be red or green, but if I tell you like your days receivable is really off and that's why your cash flow is messed up, like most business owners don't know what to go do with that. So like it's great you have the data, but if you end up canceling in 3 months because you don't know how to make it better. But I could really change your business if I told you what to change. So it's like pulling levers. And so what he said was, imagine a software where humans actually sit there and then tell people how to use it. And so in my head, that's the way this goes. You're buying a software subscription. It's a SaaS, right? But you have the person to actually help you understand the data when you want to. You don't want a person, you don't want to ask any questions. Great. All your bookkeeping's done for you. Accounting's great. You want to send financials somewhere, grab them out of the files and send them on your own. But if you want to change the way your business runs and you want to make more money or you want to fix your cash flow problem, you have a person there who can really tell you how to do that. And that's not something that a bot can tell you how to do. It's the strategy part.
Let me say in my best radio voice, I love that. That works. It's great because here's the thing. I look at this as a business owner. I love working with you. I love watching you because you're just me. You're like growth. It's just you are me with logistics, right? Because you just believe in it's all about money at the end of the day. Like if you're not making money, if you're not driving profits, if you're not increasing growth, what's the point? We're just talking about fancy widgets, which are going to lose investors' money. And I know you've never done that, and I know that this is why you're building what you're building, right? And I think the same way. At the end of the day, the numbers never lie. The clients are the only truth. That's it. There is nothing else out there. So, but then no, let me take that hat off for a second. I'm going to step into the client hat. And the client hat is the CEO of a company that have got so many transactions coming in and out. We're paying so many trainers to come in and make sure and look for stuff. We're paying growth hackers to do this. We're paying other folks to do that. We've got our staff here. We've got 1099s over there. We got a bunch of stuff happening. And we have people in-house that do some things. But do they always have the time to look for the insights? No, not really, because that's not really what we have in place. But wouldn't it be wonderful if at the end of every single day, I had an AI or a software or something that says, "Hey, Brian, just want to give you a summary of the day. These are all of the things that happened today. I'm going to tell you because you don't want to read this stuff because it's going to kind of drive you crazy. So, but this is what happened. And like you're driving home. So you should really look at this, 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 and this. And if you'd like to dig in a little bit more, then Ashley, be real happy to jump on a call tomorrow morning. I'll even schedule it for you. All you have to do is say yes." Now, I'm like, okay.
Exactly.
So you and me,
Yep.
we're like linked. You see this? You see what's going on here? We're like connected on the other
Yep.
end. I singularly think this would be the greatest software ever created, because what you can then do is it's not just Ashley who's there. It could be, hey, Brian, we've had a look at your numbers. And for the last 4 months, you've had a declining revenue. And most of the declining revenue has come from a shortage of sales of products, which you haven't been putting through. And those sales of products were doing really well last year. Something's happening, Brian. Now, I can get your accountant to come on and have a look at it, or I can get Chad, who's our friendly marketing specialist, who will be really happy to come on and just relook at your entire inventory management and what you're selling. Now
Yep.
we have a machine, because here's the thing, because you got me excited now. Here's the thing. Business owners, I forgot this is a podcast because I want to, actually, this is just about you and me. We'll get back to the podcast in a second, even though we're going to record all of this anyway, is that as a business owner, I don't want an accountant. I want someone to help me manage my business more profitably.
Yep. Exactly.
You got gold, Miss Ashley. You got gold. So I will say this to investors. For me, I believed the first time that we connected, I believed that this was money in the bank for Expert Dojo. I literally said to Victoria after the call, I don't see how we could possibly lose money on this deal. And I don't. And I didn't see a way we could possibly lose money then. And I don't see it now. And I'll tell you why. Number one, you have an incredible entrepreneur who has proven out multiple times and has made money for investors and for her partners and for herself on multiple exits previously. Number two, she's driven the company within a 3-year period to $200,000 a month in revenue. That outperforms tech only multiples of 200% growth year on year. Based on 200% year on year, she should be on like somewhere between $30,000 and $50,000 a month. She is 4 times that amount right now. Number three, the area that she is in is fundamentally broken on such a massive level. My dad was an accountant. I love accounting, but I hate accountancy. I hate it because it tells me nothing. All it does is it gives me 500 more questions that I have no ability or time to be able to go through to answer, because I'm too damn busy running my own company. And the way that Ashley and our company Profit Matters are approaching this is from the perspective of how do we use technology to unearth the problems, and then how do we use the best resources to resolve those same problems so that customers get resolution, not frustration. And finally,
Exactly.
there's no end to and I was just going to say the final thing, Ashley, is that you believe in profitability, and like the rest of the world has come to its sanity now in the venture space and said, yeah, profitability is important. I don't know where the hell they've been for the last 4 years, because for me, profitability has always been the only thing that matters. So will you scale to $1 million a month? Yep. I would put any amount of money on it right now. And even though, as usual, I'm not saying to you all investors, you should invest in this company, but I'm telling you, I would invest in this today, tomorrow, the next day, and the following day in the same way that we invested previously. And we will more than likely invest further money in this in the future because we believe that she's a rock star. So, Ashley, can we just finish with 2 things? And you can layer anything you like in on the end. The first thing is, can you give everybody your email address so folks can contact you?
Yeah, first I want to say thank you so much for the nice comments. The first time I met Brian, for any listeners, I'm like, man, he made me feel really good about myself. And it's cool in a space where a lot of people don't make you feel good about yourself, just to be around somebody so positive who like really pumps you up. So that's exciting. But if you want to get in contact with me, my email address is Ashley, ASHLEY at profitmatters.co.
Okay. And I want to say one thing before I introduce the final piece for Ashley. And that is that I only tell my truth. Because I believe people deserve my truth. My truth is not the truth. There's plenty of times I'm wrong and plenty of times I'm right and plenty of times my opinion needs to vary and change, but it will always be my truth in the moment. And so I feel that people's time is of such value that they deserve to hear from me very directly. And there are very many people who will say that after an interaction with me, they don't walk away pumped up, but they do walk away knowing how I feel about their business. The reason that you and I always have an immensely incredible interaction is because I believe in totality in what you're doing. And I believe that you will execute it, and I believe we'll all do great from it. So because of that, we're always on a place of how do we get there quicker? That's all. It's not how do we get there. You're going to get there anyway. It's like, how do we get there quicker? Okay. So saying that, I want to get to the last piece because it's very important, right? It's an interview. It's 10 years in the future. You're sitting with a very famous interviewer, and the interviewer is saying to you, Ashley, you have achieved this incredible thing, like unimaginable. I'm going to say, before I even say this, one of my favorite parties I went to in Dallas was, I mentioned this to you before, but the lady who founded Pop Puree, and she lives in that church.
Yeah.
And I just imagine I don't know what you just remind me, but anyway, so I imagine that yeah. So I imagine that if I had been saying the same thing to her back in the time, because at the beginning, like who would have imagined the Pop Puree would have become what it became, like this huge vision of a world that is different through smelly stuff, right? And in what you've built so far, where it's come from, which is, hey, we need to have a better accounting software, to what it can become in the future, I believe is immense, the change that you can bring in by doing it the Ashley way. So 10 years in the future, you're being interviewed and you're being asked, what was it that allowed you to achieve what you achieved? And tell us about what that looks like. So you have to speak to what the achievement looks like in 10 years in the future, speaking in the past tense. And you also have to speak to what it was that facilitated you getting there, what your road looks like quantitatively.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm going to tell you what that looked like. 10 years from now, I'm Ashley Engel, and I have sold my business. I've sold my business for plenty of money. There's no need to talk about that because I was able to get here from the help of other people around me, from awesome mentors, from the Expert Dojo program, from truly being able to build a roadmap and a vision that was bigger than anything that I could ever dream up, from having people around me who encouraged me to take the next step. And I heard something last night, and I'll tell you, it's things like this that really drive people to go and do something amazing. Hesitation destroys everything. Okay. And that means that every day I could make up things that were going to slow me down as I traveled along this road. But I didn't, because I remembered the way I do one thing is the way that I'm going to do everything. And I'll tell you what, my entire life, I have worked so hard to achieve a big vision, and just a hard push of people believing in me and making it so far to fall over the edge of the cliff and then just slide in there was the most awesome thing of my life. And it helped me help other people. And the reason that I got where I am today is because I wanted to live out my life's purpose. And my life's purpose has been to help other people. And the way that I help other people is by helping businesses do well. Because when a business does well, you know what happens? The whole family does well. When a business falls apart, the whole family falls apart. And people always look at me kind of in hesitation when I say this, but I've seen people go out of business. I've seen people build huge companies and put their life savings into it and then lose it all. And when that happens, kids lose nice homes, kids lose parents, marriages fall apart, and everything starts to crash down. So I'll tell you how I got here. I got here living on a dream of truly changing the world and helping business owners get to the next level.
Hallelujah. I love that. I'm in. I'll buy whatever. I'll buy. Send me the tickets. I want to come. I want to come to the concert. I love it, Ashley. I listen. We're all in with you. Investors, look, you have Ashley's details. I'm Brian at expertdojo.com. If you don't know me, reach out and I'll happily share any additional information. Otherwise, you know what to do.
Thank you so much, Brian.